Welcome to our lesson on taking quizzes and checking your grades in PAWS. Today we'll talk about how and when to take quizzes and how to check your grades and find the class average for assignments for your classes in PAWS. As always, the first thing we need to do is to log into PAWS. Once we've logged in, the next thing we need to do is select which class we need to take the quiz in. I will select LIBR 1010 from the class selector at the top of the page. Now that I'm in my course, I see assessment in the middle of the screen near the top. When I click on it, you can see two of the options are quizzes and grades. The first thing we're going to explore is how to take a quiz. Let's click on quizzes. On this page you can see that we have current quizzes and future quizzes. Current quizzes are quizzes that we can take right now, and future quizzes are ones that we cannot take yet. You'll see the dates for future quizzes are in the future. Let's try to take a future quiz to see what happens. We get a message that says quiz period not started, and we can't take the quiz. Let's use the breadcrumb trail at the top to go back to the quiz list. Aside from the date that we're allowed to take the quiz, there is also a down arrow beside each quiz. If I click on it, I see the options for submissions and reports. We'll talk about these later after we take our quiz. I'm going to click on the first quiz in current quizzes called Competency Assessment. This will take me to the main page for this quiz. Since this is a current quiz, this page looks much different than the page we saw when we clicked on a future quiz. The title of the quiz is at the top of the page, and underneath that we have our quiz details. You have current time, the current user, you. The quiz period, which tells you when you're allowed to take this quiz. Since this particular quiz closes on the 28th, and today is the 2/28, this is the last day that I can take this quiz. Next is the time allowed, which tells you how long you have to take the quiz. And the last detail is attempts. This means how many times you can attempt to take this quiz. If you're allowed multiple attempts, you can retake the test if you get a bad grade. You don't have to retake it, but you can if you want to try to get a better grade. I can see that I am allowed 2 attempts to take this quiz, and I have completed it 1 time so far. Underneath details there are quiz instructions. Always read the quiz instructions before you attempt the quiz. And at the bottom of the screen we see Start Quiz. When we are ready to start our quiz, we can click on Start Quiz. When I click on Start Quiz, I'll get a confirmation box that tells us that our quiz may take a few minutes to load. It also lets us know the timer will not begin until the setup process is finished. If you submit your responses after the time expires, your attempt will be recorded as a late submission. We can now click OK to start our quiz, or click Cancel if we do not wish to start our quiz now. I'm going to click OK to start my quiz. The quiz timer is in the top left. It counts down how much time we have left to take this quiz. Lower down on the left, it tells us how many questions we have, and we can click on the number of any question to jump to that question. Under the question number is a little disk icon with a green arrow on it. This is used to save your answer to a question. Let's look at question number 1. I can type in my answer here. Or on number 2, I could click in the oval of the answer I want. But none of these responses are recorded until I save my answer. I can do that by either clicking on the Save button under the question for number 1, or I can click on the icon underneath the question number on the left with the disk and the green arrow, such as number 2. If I click on Save, I see that the disk icon goes from transparent to solid. If you change your answer to a question, always be sure to save that change to your answer before you hit Submit. The legend on the left under your questions shows you what a saved and an unsaved question look like. After you save a question, it tells you in the quiz status in the lower left. You don't have to save each question individually though, because at the very bottom of the quiz there is an option to save all responses, which will save all your responses at once. Just be aware you must save your answers before you finish the quiz, or your responses will not be recorded. I'm going to answer some questions quickly just for the purposes of this video. Notice as I answer each one, I save, and you can see on the left that the little icons are becoming solid where they were transparent for every question that I save. But when I'm done, I want to go to Submit Quiz. When I click on it, I get a warning that I have 7 unanswered questions. So if you were actually taking the test, you would want to go back, and you could click on these links to get back to these questions. But for our example here, I'm just going to hit Submit Quiz, so we're going to submit anyway. Now I have a confirmation box. It says, you are about to submit your quiz, after which you will not be able to return to the quiz. Are you sure you want to submit the quiz? So once you've submitted, you can't change any of your answers. This is what is turned in to your professor. If I am sure that I have answered all questions and I've saved my answers, I can click on Yes, Submit Quiz. Optionally, your professor may have the next screen auto-grade the quiz and show you the answers to what you got right and what you got wrong. Right answers have a green check beside them. Wrong answers have a red X, and the correct answer may be in blue. And questions you just didn't answer just have an arrow pointing towards the actual correct answer. At the bottom of the page, it shows your score for this attempt and your overall grade for this quiz so far. Again, this is optional, so your professor may not have this page for every quiz you take that shows at the end what you got wrong and what you got right. Some classes you might have to wait for the professor to grade your assignment before you get this information. When we're done looking at this, we can click Close in the lower left. We now see a page for quiz submissions for this quiz with our attempts, our score, and our overall grade. Not all quizzes are auto-graded, and you may have to wait for your professor to give you the final grade. To get back to my quiz list, I can click on the quiz list in the breadcrumb trail in the upper left. If we wanted to get back to the submissions page, we can click on the down arrow beside the quiz and click on Submissions. We now see on the right that I've used one of my attempts for this quiz. Where it did say 1 of 2, now it says 2 of 2. So I've used all 2 attempts, so I cannot take this quiz again. But I see on the right that my second quiz, sample quiz, I've done 0 of 5 times, so I still have 5 more attempts for this quiz. The next one's 0 of 3, 3 attempts for that quiz, and so on. But those are the basics of our quizzes and how to take a quiz. But let's look at our grades. To do this, click on Assessment in the top middle here, and then click on Grades. We are now on our grades page. Anything in this course that is graded will appear on this page. There are different categories of items such as quizzes, assignments, and activities. These may look different depending on what categories your professor has chosen to put your grades in. Within each category are items, and to the right it tells you how much each item is worth and how many points you have gotten for completing this item so far. If you receive a letter grade, it will be to the right of this, and if you received any feedback, it will be to the right of that. For my Librarian of Congress item, I got 2 of 2 points. There was no letter grade for it. And it shows my feedback I got from the professor. Some of these items and categories have bar graphs beside them. If you click on one of these, it will show you the class average for this particular item. If I click on one, let's say I click on discussions, it'll show me the class average and grade distribution, which shows how many people made a certain grade on an item. This particular item has not yet been graded, so it has a 0% for everyone. If you want to print your grades, you can do so with the print icon in the upper right hand corner. Today we learned how to take a quiz and then look at our grades in PAWS. As always, if you have any other questions, please contact the help desk at 901-333-4357. Or you can contact me at fmatthews@southwest.tn.edu.